So I'm going to go ahead and tell you who's with us this evening and let you know what order they'll be reading. And then I'm going to step out of the way and just turn things over to our authors this evening, who are all published by Wave Books. So first this evening will be Matthew Rohrer, who's the author of The Sky Contains the Plans and the Others, which was the winner of the 2017 Believer Book Award. Surrounded by Friends, Destroyer and Preserver, A Plate of Chicken, Rise Up, and A Green Light, which was shortlisted for the 2005 Griffin Poetry Prize. He's also the author of Satellite and co-author with Joshua Beckham of Nice Hat. Thanks. And the audio CD, Adventures While Preaching the Gospel of Beauty. He's appeared on NPR's All Things Considered and The Next Big Thing. His first book, A Hummock in the Moluccas, I did not confirm how to pronounce any of that when we started, so you may have to speak a correction, was selected for the National Poetry Series by Mary Oliver in 1994. And he lives in Brooklyn and teaches at NYU. Matthew will be followed by David Brazil, who's a poet, pastor, and translator. His third book of poetry, Holy Ghost, was nominated for a California Book Award. He's the editor of Wave Books edition of Philip Whalen's Scenes of Life at the Capitol, which is new this year. With Kevin Killian, he co-edited the Kenning Anthology of Poets Theater, 1945 to 1985. With China Okoye, he was the founding curator of the Berkeley Art Museum's Black Life series, focusing on cultural production in the African diaspora. He has presented his work at Cambridge University, Johns Hopkins, and San Francisco State University, among other venues. He lives in New Orleans. Welcome. Next up, we'll have Lisa Fishman, who's the author of Mad World, Mad Kings, Mad Composition from Wave. Also 24 Pages and Other Poems, Flowers See Art, Current, and The Happiness Experiment. A North American writer, Fishman is working on dividing her time between Wisconsin, where she currently lives, and somewhere across the border. Following Lisa will be Chris Nealon, who's a professor of English at Johns Hopkins University. He's the author of The Shore from Wave, as well as 2 books of literary criticism, Foundlings, Lesbian and Gay Historical Emotion Before Stonewall, and The Matter of Capital, Poetry and Crisis in the American Century, as well as 3 earlier books of poetry, The Joyous Age, Plummet, and Heteronomy. He lives in Washington, D.C. And then finally, we'll have Chicu Reddy, who's the author of Underworld Lit from Wave, Voyager, named one of the best books of poetry in 2011 by The New Yorker, The Believer, and NPR, and Facts for Visitors, which won the 2005 Asian American Literary Award. He has written on poetry for the New York Times and the New Republic, and his book of literary criticism, Changing Subjects, Digressions in Modern American Poetry, was published by Oxford University Press in 2012. The NEA, Creative Capital Foundation, and Guggenheim Foundation have awarded him grants and fellowships. And in fall 2015, he delivered the Bagley Wright Lectures in Poetry, graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop and the doctoral program in English at Harvard University. He is currently an associate professor of English at the University of Chicago. We're thrilled to welcome all of these writers here this evening, and we will get started with Matthew Rohrer.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for coming. It is true that it seems like everyone's trapped at home, but I know you have many, many things to do. And I love seeing old friends, old students. It's great to see everybody here. Thank you for coming and supporting Wave. I am going to read from my new book, The Sky Contains the Plans. It is a book that I wrote using hypnagogic phrases that came to me on the verge of sleep. I learned that I heard strange voices and lines kept coming to me as I was falling asleep. And so I decided that I'd write them down, and they all became the first lines of every poem in the book. I got about 100, and the book is probably 60 of them. I was excited because I thought this would be, be doing most of my work for me, and it would be so exciting to have all these trippy dream lines. But so many of them are they were just really boring, or they're very difficult to use in a poem as the first line. But that became the challenge of the work. And so I'll read you the line. They're also the first line of every poem. I think one of the pleasures of this too is thinking maybe like how you would do it differently. So you'll hear the line twice and you can imagine your own better poem maybe. This often, you won't be able to see this, but often the shape of the line or the rhythm of it would also like dictate the shape of the poem. But this line was said, "Did you eat your blossoms on time?" "Did you eat your blossoms on time?" I called out to all the diners in a restaurant made entirely of blossoms, singing beautiful little snatches of songs as I floated past. And when I awoke, you were entangled in me and still asleep. The lonely sound of a room at night bent its strings to my ears. In some cultures, this is a form of meditation. The Chinese used to eat blossoms until they vomited halos of flowers in the fields. But the silence preceded me and surrounded me. I lay perfectly still, wrapped around you, an image of us in my mind boating across all the wine we've drunk together in the slow turn of evening. That's a big lake, by the way. This line was, "We probably shouldn't be discussing this. We probably shouldn't be discussing this. It makes me angry, the mental illnesses of the hyper-acquisitive that pass for heaven's blessing. We shouldn't invite this stuff into our home. I wash out the air with the smetana polkas and drink a little ginger tea because we decided not to keep whiskey in the house this month to see what would happen, and it's happened." This line delivered to me was, "You're consuming darkness." "You're consuming darkness," she told me. I knew it. I was talking far too much. I was taking the darkness in and giving it all out again. There's no reason to do it. I realized this. I was sitting in one place while spiders crawled all over me, or I said too many things that were easily replaced with silence. Like a shot, I wanted to spring out across the treetops, in love with everyone. I heard thunder and saw lightning move in slowly down the valley, and I didn't feel the least bit tempted to plunge a knife into a critic. This line is one Navy painting. One Navy painting of an armored butterfly says it all. Follow the money to the mouth of the liar. He will be killed by his own comrades in a courtroom. How lovely it is to watch the trees visibly shaken. Okay, this one is, "Where are my other planets?" "Where Are My Other Planets" is the title of a painting by a guy who lives across the street, whose name I don't know, but who is famous, or perhaps infamous, on the street because he is a baiter of bears and who often staggers up the wrong stoop at night, drunken, cursing, smelling of bear grease. It's agreed there's no excuse for this. The stoops are only similar in that they're stoops. And once I was parking my car when another neighbor started talking to me about this baiter of bears. He called him a clown and a jackass. "He's also a painter," I said, which made me sound like I was defending him. It's just that I accidentally saw his painting in a gallery where I had gone to hear the revolution espoused, and it sounded good. But then we all went home and forgot to revolt. This is a poem that is one of the, I'm working on a series that's going to span many books, probably to the end of my life, which is my quixotic attempt to explain to the people of Pittsburgh that there really aren't three rivers there. There's just two. There's one and another one meets it. It's obvious if you look at the map, but tried to tell that to someone who lives in Pittsburgh. So this is, the line is, "Bless my nameless hour." Bless my nameless hour with red wine, where you are now well lit in a sunny outdoor tavern that looks over all three rivers, whether there really are three or whether one river flows into another. The facts are with science, but not blessing. And I want your blessing, the whole town's blessing, by spilling red wine on your lips and kissing your idea of me because I'm home with the kids. Okay, this line from The Edge of Sleep was, yesterday could do a better job of explaining that than I could. Yesterday could do a better job of explaining that than I could. The mist pulls away from the bridge and there's a body lying twisted out of its boots in a very sophisticated pose. And the streets are strewn with dried beans. You can talk about how it works afterward, but it works or it doesn't. Two women wash some clothes through a hole in the ice. A non-violent demonstration of the birds alights in the frozen vines. It is a success. This line is, but when you were counting, you skipped 6, 7, and 8. But when you were counting, you skipped 6, 7, and 8, she said. She looked like a nun, but wasn't. She was, I somehow understood, though I was only 8, empty, moving around the classroom out of habit. Her greatest gift was to disappear. When she saw me looking at her this way, she sent me to the guidance counselor. I was the only person for miles without a television. I moved up and down seemingly by chance in the world. I ended up in a book. This one was another one that was hard to imagine where I would go from the line. So you'll hear how it presented me with a particular problem, which you will hear that I fixed right away in the second line. The line is, my name is Tromos Nibar. My name is Tromos Nibar, my country of origin unimportant. Tonight I come to tell of marvelous wonders under stars, of fields of wildflowers shining all night with strange lights. In the daylight, an image of my face was pressed into the wildflowers and grasses, and they pulled me out of my seat at work. They brought me to see it. A huge cheer rose up into the morning, though why, even they were not sure. Who was I to be a mysterious face pressed down on the countryside? I worked for a furniture reupholstery shop. On the night in question, I drunk an entire bottle of whiskey but didn't die. I collapsed in my bathroom. I dreamed I was blooming. This was originally going to be the title of the whole book instead of This Guy Contains a Plans. My wife watched me doing this every night, like for 100 nights, going to bed with a notebook and like writing stuff down and waking up in the morning with, like a really messy scrawl. And one day she picked it up and all it said, it took up the whole page. It said, seahorses are awesome. And she was like, that's a great job you have. So seahorses are awesome. The entire ocean is very beautiful when it dances in your eyes, typing a poem on the shore, and it rises into the air to hang there like another dimension laid over this Brooklyn June night, Prospect Park West, stunned into submission. Just one color in the sky, the traffic circle typing a poem without any paper, like the ocean, where the seahorses move so unlikely, and the males raise the young burst out of them. Okay, just a couple more. This one, the line is, you will notice a faithful block of cheese is present. You will notice a faithful block of cheese is present. It cannot harm you. It doesn't even see you or know that you're here. It is merely a bewitched cheese that is faithful to me and also does some typing and filing, organizing really. It is an extremely wonderful cheese. Do not be alarmed. I am its master. All right. So this is the last one, not in the book, but the last one I'll read you. Thank you everybody for coming and listening. It's great to see your faces. this line is, I only smoke cigarettes on your rotation. I only smoke cigarettes on your rotation. Everyone else sees me as the actual smoke passing in front of their selection in the vending machine, or waving frantically to get their attention, or pulling apart in the afternoon breeze. When I wake up in your bed, hungover, shredded cheese in the bedclothes, I always feel briefly a terrible panic that I never called home with my excuses, but you are my home. Thank you.
Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, don't do it without me. Don't do it without me. Beloved brethren, it's so good to be in the service with you again. Tonight's scripture comes from 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter and the 7th verse. For the mystery of iniquity is already at work. In 2018, a year marked by the murders of Deontay Yarber and Stefan Clark and Nia Wilson, among so many others, I wrote a manuscript entitled Whiteness is Sin and Other Love Poems. In 2020, it is still topical. Grace gave me the coffee to go the week of the Starbucks incident, the week that Deontay was killed by cops in a lot in Barstow, California. Deontay, Deontay, Deontay is what I am saying. Daddy, daddy, daddy is what his kids are saying. Nothing is what white people are saying. On a Holy Week conference call with 5 Black women just after the cops killed Stefan Clark, they want to know why white folks do not care. What can I say? White folks, why don't you care? Children, my children, oh, what shall we do? The Lord sent his son and the cops killed him too. I may not live to see the day when justice takes her stand, but nonetheless I kneel and pray in this my native land, whose crimes must still be purged with blood, as Prophet John Brown said, whose Lord enthroned at the flood shall judge the quick and dead. I needed food, you gave me the moon. Now even so, come Jesus soon, and separate the sheep and goats, and judge the quick, and burn the boats. The horse and his rider were thrown in the sea. If you don't think that's good news, you might be white as fuck. Robin Redbreast on a bench, Low Bobby Hutton Park. This one is called Malcolm's Birthday Ode to Joy. O little moon in sky still blue, beheld by rows of elephant bells, way past the portable roof of the Lotus, Ode to Joy, or Happy Birthday, Malcolm. Alle Menschen werden Brüder, wo dein sanfter Flügel weilt. This one is called Father Abraham. I asked my father Abraham, who has made me as I am? Why the world is full of woe for we who suffer sleet and snow, and why this season's been so hard for all us children of the Lord, and what it is that I should do to show my God my heart is true. To age's wisdom turn a fool, and ask why white folks are so cruel. And pray that we may daily start to swap for stones a fleshy heart, whose weight is no more than a feather, true and righteous altogether. For otherwise I must pray more that we will perish in the war that rises up upon our land like Red Seas over Pharaoh's band. For I, a man of unclean lips, arose from those who bore the whips, and never in these centuries have paid the needed penalties which could in some small way atone for all the many thousands gone. And so I sat before the war and scribbled out this petty score of prayers to Father Abraham, who held the knife and saw the ram. Her name was Imani. Her name was Lanice. Her name was Donna. Her name was Carol. Her name was Chica. Her name was Jamise. Her name was Sylvia. Her name was Ayantha. Her name was Alicia. Her name was Zoe. Her name was Jessica. Her name was Carrie. Her name was Amber. Her name was Andrea. Her name was Myrtle. Her name was Denisha. Her name was Kat. Her name was Ashley. Her name was Candace. Her name was Nikea. Her name was Rihanna. Her name was Morgan. Her name was Frances. Her name was Cass. Her name was Juanita. Her name was Althea. Her name was Pasita. Her name was Lucchesa. Her name was Rachel. Her name was Alma. Was Alma. Was Alma. Mere coincidence, Fanon brings in the gospel 4 paragraphs into Wretched of the Earth? I guess he knew what the scripture was about. Christ came to decolonize this shit. A subaltern he was, how could he not? Tomorrow's Aimé Césaire's birthday. If it doesn't work for Black folks, then it doesn't work for me. And it doesn't work for Black folks, at least as far as I can see. I count my past life shit, like St. Paul said, to pluck the hostile from my wall of heart. I wish I knew a way to talk to you about the things we have to change to keep on living, honey pie. Pastor Sarah said, I serve a God who frees the slaves and kills the masters. This word preached from Exodus, which prophesies mixed multitudes in 12 and 38. Robin Redbreast on a bench. Little Bobby Hutton Park. I got on the BART train and went. Nia, tonight your spirits heard in the traffic that passes. You deserved better. The first time I stood on that platform, you were 5. I didn't do enough to protect you. Then it was Sunday, July 22nd, 2018. Lo siento, lo siento, lo siento. When I finally cried, it was unbelievably at work to the tune of Jesus Was a Crossmaker on YouTube. He's a bandit and a heartbreaker. Oh, but Jesus was a crossmaker. Deontay, Stefan, John and Jesus, Harriet or Moses, really, Malcolm maybe Lil Bobby Hutton, Claudia, Patricia, Gomez, Gonzalez. Make this prayer throughout the year that all white gain might perish here. At Nia's shrine, Vaya con Dios, the hand-lettered signs read, justice, justice, just like the scripture. Katie said, the killer walked through the crowd. The killer walked through the crowd. I felt my voice shake when I talked about Nia. And since our high priest crossed the heavens, let us hold to our confession, go before the throne with holy boldness, say it all, and therefore gather mercy from the manna, light on grace. And this is called Whiteness is Sin. On this white earth will come a day when justice re-enthroned shall say that for our sins we'll have to pay. Or so the blunt apostle wrote and folded in his Roman note before old Caesar cut his throat, whose gouts of blood spilled in the sludge, which still cries out its ancient grudge. The Lord has seen, the Lord will judge. Thank you.
Okay, so is this working? Yes, okay. I think I need to change my view. I don't know. I guess. Is it okay to start? Anyone? All right, Chicu, thank you. It's really good and also a little bit confusing to see people this way, but thank you so much. Thank you. Worksheet, March 2013. Quaking aspen grove, it's called, is growing from a single, each aspen in the forests from just one. So shadows tend the dense grown grove, get open yellow light, and yet, and then, and what in making up the matted bed of moss and loam and not twig down, says here am waiting for a known outside of English. Into the forest went the men, messed up the weather. A woman fishes out the lines and crosses out the missive, massive swaths of gunk, cannot pry out a word the way some do pry out the mammoth tusks, ground in the ground and buried in. I took dictation from one age 3. Whoever would jump as high as the sun will melt like wood in fire. Gulls lifted over my bestiary. The mothers floating were sea otters nursing under the clouds called mare's tails. Many animals stuck to the planet the waves crashed up against while you were talking. I wanted to take the child to a maze because he likes to find his way through things. There was a maze of pumpkins, a maze of hedges, and a maze of stones, very much to keep turning, and to love necessitates another voice. I need to see where the river switches from level 3 to level 4 if you expect me to get in that kayak. But really, it isn't good enough just seeing the pattern. Spring. The book is not chronology. The book is a mess, which became the research of where things go. No memory. Copying out of Calvino, the world must be read backward. Being asked to write the sounds. What is the sound? Not a lion tamer in the riddle dream, nor a cobra in my mind. 12 knives in 12 decks shine. What did you think? The tongue is a fire? Airplane womb sound. No one's floating, only the mind. What's between halves of the rib cage? Everything stinking. Who was the thing or one question to open? The door of a face become hurt as not listening, as woman, as worker to disturb. I am the government of an envelope, half sealed, I and you. This is, this is an alphabet poem and an abecedarium or an ABC poem written in Oklahoma. It's for Lewis and Rick. And so in the ABC poem, each line starts with the next letter of the alphabet. Of course, within that form, one is free to make the lines as long as you need them to be to get to the next letter. Okay. Animal, plant, and mineral bodies aren't different from word bodies. A selenite crystal might tell you if you dug it out by hand and shovel not really dug, but loosened out with water that you carried to the hole you dug, then poured carefully around as soon as any crystal bit appeared, and let the rest of it emerge, just as every space between each word and every space between each letter, such as between the E and F in effluence, gets going, gets alive, but how? It was going to start backward, this jostled alphabet continuing a kinescopic way of seeing from behind, or like the snake with its tail in its mouth, which isn't much of a beginning, but may sort of name an intervolving shape, an overlapping idea of progression, poor snake or knowing snake, poor knowing snake, infinitely self-conjoined. I knew a person named Kiama, and I'd rather write her name for Q than find a word I haven't used in Webster's 7th, though I found an insect called Timema californicum when looking for a picture of a certain verdant color, mint julep to be whistle clear exact, and was surprised by californicum, the word, as every word and letter are surprised, I mean alive, akin to plants and animals and everything as stated here, beginning over with both Z and A. And the last poem I'll read is a part of a long sequence called Summer 2015, just somewhere in the middle of that sequence. Sun come down, poisonous rays and all. Stick your whole face in a melon. You have broken apart with your hands. That is the reason a moth's blue or yellow in the world. Messenger, melons were in the hollow of your throat. Go back and try again. Thank you. And thanks so much. Chris is next.
Thanks, folks. It's nice to see you all. Thank you, Stephanie and Malaprops, for having us. I'm going to read one poem. My poems are a bit longish, I guess. This is a short one for me. It's not in my recent book, The Shore, but it's in the same style, I think, or it's the same flavor. And it's called All In. Half already living in the new way, half attached to disregarded promises. We seem to have gotten lost on the way to the club. I blame Donald. He and Mike got me into this. Making our way down the middle of an unlit street through a landscape, partly city, partly open plain. Late night party sounds from living rooms, empty lots and uncapped sewers. It's hard to tell what's occupied and what's abandoned. Adam loops around us on his bike, saying, just a couple blocks. Look out, dead cat. It's undecayed, but plastered to a hump in the grass. Its tail curls pointedly toward an open hole. We peer down into it, but Carrie tugs my sleeve and murmurs, live dog? Pitbull watching from the porch, no leash, no gate. He smiles. Later at the bar, he says, yeah, I work in the Tenderloin. I'm always on the lookout for whether things are dead or alive. California seems so far away. Absently, he snaps a button on his cowboy shirt. Then he takes a candy wrapper out of his pocket and says, we should use this, nodding at the darkened door. It's a ticket. Gold foil? I shine my phone light on it. Tiny iridescent lines of text flash out. He lets another button go and I'm all in. This is the work of memory. When you are about to die, go down to the well-built house of Hades. There is a spring on the right side, and standing by it, a white cypress. Do not even go near that spring. The guards will ask you what you are seeking in the darkness. Say, I am a child of earth and starry sky. I am parched with thirst, and I am dying. Please grant to give me water from the lake. The poem about the body and the poem above the body. The way you're in one place and the way you're on a journey. Maybe I'm just someone who runs errands. Before I traveled to New Orleans, I drove back home to Western New York State, the land of the dead. Watery coffee in the cup holder, funeral suit in the trunk. Is it a road trip if you're alone? Chargers and Mustangs, Chargers and Mustangs. Halfway there and going 85, you're really in the headspace. That guy from Kentucky wants to mess with you, but don't take the bait. His license plate reads, all nuts. Starting out from Washington was slow. I caught the scent of marshland in a tiny paradise near BWI. Paradise for what? A doe. You see and trees, all that muscle built from chopping leaves. And at the marsh's center, nowhere you could step. You'd have to melt or somersault into some other form. Traffic picks up and bam, it's Pennsylvania. Back at the bar, we've made it to the other side. Yeji's singing Rain Girl. The documentarians are draped on couches and snuggling in love seats. They don't seem to hang out with the feature people. And whites and bonds and stripper costumes. Wait, how do you dress like PJ and I agree that jumpsuits are hot, but why? Telena, body length zippers, hello. The couches are velvet and the walls deep red. Donald and I start comparing notes on that Twin Peaks reboot. I was grossed out by the whole time loop thing at the end. It just felt like Lynch not owning up to his Manichaeism. And haven't we reached peak dead girl? Sorry, criticism creeping into poetry. What does Vivaldo tell Ida in Another Country? I'm just a fucked up group of people. I am a two-part person writing out of incompatible moods. It's planning to rock now. With passerine agility, the living and the dead gavotte from room to room. I feel low to the ground, but peopled. The disaster has already happened and everyone knows it will come again. I turn to Adam and I ask him, so do you like it here? He grins at me and says, it's the best place on earth. God, church. I grew up in this sanctuary, straining to hear a sound. It was Vatican II, but Operation Rescue. When my dad couldn't drive anymore, my mother would take us to Burger King for an hour and make up a homily afterward. But I loved my Uncle Art, and I'm glad to have something to offer. Brothers and sisters, it begins. We know that if our earthly dwelling, the tent, should be destroyed, we have another building, a dwelling not made with hands. Paul moved around a lot. On Google Maps, it looks like it would take you 18 hours to get from Corinth to Ephesus. This route has tolls, includes a ferry ride, crosses a country border. Now I feel bad that I edited his letter. Let me put the God back in. Looking down at the assembled, I can see the front door open. To see the light is almost to walk down the aisle. I could so easily have been that priest after services on some broad lawn in a summer breeze, thinking with satisfaction how the Lord made the birches. But I'm on the road back home. It's not the flooding, is it? Or the fires? It's not the mass extinction. It's what kind of struggle will this be? And what will we become? The terminal pressure of a rich value put us all against each other. Also, will we mutate fast enough? The Goldilocks in me is always trying to imagine a remediated future where everything is just the right price. The Christian wears me down by always asking me to poke through the material world. I've driven myself half crazy thinking I can sift out what's the redemptive part and what's the hell. But not tonight. Outside, through the door behind the door, a zombie is buying barbecue for 20 girls in firefighter costumes. Between two DJ sets, you can hear the karaoke down the street. It's like there's no pure silence. My fears are talking smack about my dreams, but I'm not listening. I have been to lots of parties in expensive capitals and godforsaken little towns. I have found myself at the impossible point where the cyclone meets the counter cyclone. Have you ever had that feeling where there's just about no difference between being ready to dance and ready to go to the wall? When those chords break through, I know that I am not a two-part person, and neither are you. You are something unforeseeable, something that sings. Oh, my friends, it's going down, and we may not survive, but liberation beckons in all things. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for reading tonight and for turning out, and to Malaprop Books and to Wave too. This is really great. Part of. I'm going to try and do something. It's probably a bad idea. I'm going to share my screen with you. So just don't steal my social security number. Let's see if this works. I'm going to read some pop quizzes from hell. Let's see. All right. Please print clearly and remember your name. Can you see this? Yeah. The river of fire in ancient Greek thanatopography feeds into the river of blank. From the river of pain spring two rivers, the river of blank and the river of blank. The river of blank runs a separate course entirely, concealed inside the Greek word for truth. At the sight of sinners approaching, the blank seethes like butter in a frying pan. Blank is the Sanskrit river of ash. As the sun god Rohr floats down the river of the hidden chamber, his head is exchanged for that of a blank. Those for whom much lamentation is made find the blank swollen with tears and difficult to cross. To our knowledge, the river of blank has no name. Read each question and circle the least incorrect option. Remain quietly seated when you're done. Maybe I'll tell you some of the answers to these two. 1. The entrance to the Mayan underworld is located in A, an underwater cave system in Bolivia, B, the dark rift in the Milky Way, C, a locked vault in the back office of the United Fruit Company, D, all of the above. D. 2. The sun god Ra journeys toward the third hour of the night on a blank. A, funeral boat, B, serpent boat, C, one-eyed boat, D, boat towed by jackals. I forget what the answer is for that one. I think it might be D. 3. The hero's companion in the Epic of Gilgamesh dies of A, vehicle rollover, B, friendly fire, C, superficial spreading malignant melanoma, D, irrelevant question. 4. The first large-scale multiple choice assessment was administered by A, the Hindu god of death, B, Jacques Derrida, C, the United States Army, D, all of the below. The answer is C. Please limit your responses to the space-time provided below. Your answers will be evaluated for honesty, cleanliness, devotion, humility, compassion, and spelling. No talking. 10 minutes. 1. Enumerate the principal mountain ranges of the late Bronze Age Sumerian realm of the dead. 2. Identify he who consumes the excrement from his hindquarters. I think we all know who that is. 3. Briefly trace the development of data storage systems from the underworld ledger to cloud computing. 4. What is the function of repetition in disciplining the dead? 4. What is the function of repetition in disciplining the dead? I'm not really sure how to read this one. Draw a line from each divinity to his or her or their least incorrect identification. There's no earthly penalty for guessing. 10 minutes. No talking. Inuit death god, sleeps on a sick bed. Celtic death god, man with something to cut. Hindu death god, subsists on a diet of stars. Aztec death god, hangs sister from meat hook. Sumerian death goddess, wears a cloak made of mist. Incan death god, nationalizes mining industry. Japanese death goddess, body of stone. Egyptian death god, penis eaten by catfish. Norse death goddess, composer of invitations. Ohlone death god, never lies. Locate the underworld figures hidden below. You may search the 4 cardinal directions, diagonally and in reverse. Please, no talking. Hurry. Yomra, Batarakala, Mitlantle Kudli, Kernobog, Ogbunabali, Jikininki, Izanami no Mikoto, Mott, Blue Material, Ha. I'll just point out my favorite one here. Where is it? I don't know, I'm there somewhere. I can't find myself now. Circle the correct companion species to escort the dead through their underworlds. No talking, no looking over your shoulder. Objects in learning assessment are closer than they appear. 1. Late classic Mesoamerica. This one. 2. Arab Republic of Egypt. 3. Inuit, Alu, Inupiat, Yupik. This is supposed to be an aurora borealis. 4. Yangtze River Valley, 5th millennium AD. And I think this is the last one. Rate the following exercises on the scale below. 0 feels nothing at all. 5 hurts as much as you can imagine. You don't have to actually be crying to feel this way. 1. Contemplate your moral form in the Jade Emperor's mirror. 2. Dig through a hillside with your breasts, wearing a millstone for a cap. No bathroom, no sleeping. Hurry up, please. 3. Masturbate forever, chanting, I am alone in Middle Persian. 4. Be thou a deathless thorn tree in the suicidal woods. 5. Shit forever. 6. Hold up the sky. Thanks, I hope that worked.
That did work, thank you. I just want to say, just for myself, and I'm going to assume that I'm speaking for everyone else, how wonderful this has been this evening. This whole virtual format is an adjustment for all of us, and I think we all just need to, we're all just kind of rolling with it at this point, and hopefully employing grace for each other at this time for all sorts of reasons. And so this has just been really wonderful. I am hoping that, and I know that a couple of you, I think, have actually been to Malaprop, so I'm hoping that we can have more of you back at the store sometime in person, because we love to share space with each other and with authors. But this is the next best thing, and we just really appreciate you joining us. And everyone in the audience, we really appreciate you joining us as well. As we said, we know that everyone has other stuff to do. So thank you. And I'm gonna, David has mentioned a reading next week. I've just posted in the chat. And to the rest of the authors, if you have anything that you would like to share before we go, if you have any other events coming up or readings coming up, if you want to post them in the chat, you can also email me. I'll be sending a follow-up email out to folks. And for anybody who missed part of the reading, or if you know folks who wanted to come and couldn't, we will have a video available as well at a later date. It's taking us a little time to get things edited and posted to our YouTube page, but we'll send out a link when that's available. So you will be able to review this if you were able to be with us for the whole thing, or to catch the parts that you missed if you weren't. So I'll just offer any last comments from our authors if you have anything before we wrap up. Okay, I think we're good. Thanks so much again, everyone. Just really appreciate it. This was really, really lovely. Thanks so much for sharing our space. And folks, join us again sometime. We'll have more of this going on for the foreseeable. So we'll be seeing you online again soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.